everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we have some more Amazon Audible audiobook news, and that involves more casting announcements and some first reviews. Alright, the very first thing we have is Fergus Rattigan has been cast as Phileas Flitwick in the Harry Potter the Full Cast audio editions. Next up we have Adil has been cast as Argus Filch. And we have Yasmin as Madame Irma Prince. So there's that. And we have Rebecca Root has been cast as Poppy Pomfrey. And here's where it gets really weird. So this is Bumble as Ginny, which I'm sorry, why would you name your child Bumble? So you have Joel Fry as Charlie Weasley. You have Hamish Lloyd Barnes as Fred and George Weasley. So they have one actor to voice both characters. I don't really like that. I would have rather two different actors who just sound similar rather than one. I don't know how I feel about that. Let me know in the comments below how you guys feel about that. We have Tom Royal as Percy Weasley, and then we also have Nina Wadia as Molly Weasley. Now here's the thing, they're only announcing like for Sorcerer's Stone, so that's why Arthur Weasley isn't there, or Bill Weasley isn't there. I don't know why Charlie Weasley, as he's not actually in the first book, he's just mentioned. So unless they're having him like read the note, because like Charlie sends Ron a note, and I'm guessing that's what he's like cast for Sorcerer's Stone or Philosopher's Stone, whatever. So there's that. And then if we keep going, we have the Dursleys. So we have Jaden as Dudley, we have Jeremy Swift as Vernon, and then we also have Indra as Petunia Dursley. Now here's the thing, this kind of breaks the mold as what I was thinking that Amazon Audible audiobooks was following HBO, right? Because we already know how some of these castings have gone in HBO. For example, Dudley here is Indian or Pakistani or something like that. He's a brown boy, whereas HBO is following the correct characteristics or physical characteristics with the casting of what's-his-face's name. I totally am blanking on his name, but he looks somewhat the part of Dudley Dursley, not really rotund, but at least, right hair color, skin color, all those other things. So that kind of breaks the mold. As if you remember in my previous video, I was talking about how like they cast a black man for Sirius Black. Is this how they're going to fix racism? That they're actually going to copy Amazon Audible books and cast a black guy for Sirius Black in HBO. But this is breaking the mold because even some of the other characters, for example, Argus Filch has already been cast, but here he is casted by Adil, right? So again, kind of breaking the mold, so it kind of threw me off guard. I thought I had a pattern recognition there, but no, I don't. Then we have more. So with Finbar Lynch as the Fat Friar, Stephen Magna as Dilly Headless Nick, which we already knew, and then Nigel Pilkington as Peeve. Then we have Lenny James as the Sorting Hat. So that's interesting. And then we also have this little clip, and I'm pretty sure like they're gonna hit me again because obviously why wouldn't you hit me with this?
Hello, 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 hello. I am Hugh Laurie, and I am the voice of Dumbledore.
I am Matthew McFadden, and I am the voice of Lord Voldemort.
I'm Riz Ahmed.
Interesting, he says Lord Voldemort. He doesn't say Voldemort. En français.
And I'm the voice of Professor Snape.
Let's rock and roll. I'm Danny Mays, and I'm the voice of Dobby.
Oh, I totally know who that guy is now. He was in Doctor Who, wasn't he? Anyway, continue.
All right, we good?
And this is Harry Potter, like you've never heard it before.
Harry Potter the Full Cast audio editions. Listen on Audible.
Okay, so that's Cush Jumbo. That's the narrator. I did read your guys' comments about, in my previous video, how the narrator should be kind of monotone and shouldn't be super duper enthusiastic or anything because she's just setting the scene and all the other actors and actresses are supposed to be like talking in their own set. And I do understand your point, I do. I just think it's something to get used to, right? We're so used to Stephen Fry and Jim Dale that I'm just not used to, I guess, the monotone voice. Although a lot of people seem to agree with me on that. But again, it's just going to take some getting used to. All right. So there is actually this that I want to show you guys. This is the new article that was just dropped today. When we say the new Harry Potter audiobook series has a full cast, we're not joking. From Albus Dumbledore to Petunia Dursley, discover the voice behind every single character in the star-studded production. So as you guys know, the Philosopher's Sorcerer's Stone is being released November 4th, so next week. Now this is a little clip. All right. I'm really proud of the Harry Potter news. They're really good at their clips. Let's try again. Let's try.
Hello.
Okay, that's the exact same thing. We can keep going. The sheer talent in that video alone is jaw-dropping, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. There are so many brilliant actors whose voices have helped to shape the series. Hundreds, in fact. So we do have all of these listings. So we have Kush, obviously. We have the Golden Trio, you know who. And then we have some of the announcements of today, right? But it keeps going and going and going. But we also have some of these, like, I'm pretty sure Dre was never announced as Dean Thomas. If he was, I totally forgot. But I did want to point out that I've noticed that all the characters who are of color in the books are also voiced by voice actors who are of color of ethnicity. I think that's ironic. Just a little fun fact. I've noticed that. It's never the opposite, right? Like, we have seen, for example, Sirius Black, the voice actor is black, who gives a shit, right? Because it's just the voice. But I've noticed that if the character's already black or whatever, it's always voiced by a black character. I thought that was ironic. Never the opposite, right? You wouldn't have a black character voiced by a white character in 2025. Interesting. Anyway, so we have also these, right? These are like departing students, sorting student 1, sorting student 2. So if you want to see the full list, I'm just going to scroll through lightly, and you guys can always pause and see what you want to see. Like Sarah Whitehouse is the fat lady. We have these castings over here for Diagon Alley. We have witches and wizards, like Augusta Longbottom, blah, 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 blah. Magical beings. We have goblins. Not gonna be honest, I don't really see any names because I skimmed this before that really stuck out to me. Like anybody from the Harry Potter movies or whatnot. Perhaps if I did like a name to a face, it'd be a lot like, oh, I know that guy, you know? So we got muggles, we got additional voices. Look how many there are. Like, that is a long list of people. And this is only for the first book. So, again, pause whenever you feel free. Blah, 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 blah. I thought that said Harriet Tubman for a second. I was like, what on earth? And that is the end of it right there. So, this, again, is from the official Harry Potter website, and it's published today, October 30th. Now, let's get to the reviews. I have not actually read these. So, this one's from cnet.com. I listened to Audible's Harry Potter Fullcast audiobook. It's as magical as I'd hoped. Review: Audible and Pottermore Publishing are bringing the Wizarding World to life in an enchanted new way. I got an early listen to their production of Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone and was entranced. There's no shortage of ways to experience the magical world of Harry Potter, from the books and the films to the theme parks and stores. But as I hit play on Audible's new production of the popular series, I felt myself being transported into something both familiar and spellbindingly novel. Audible, in partnership with Pottermore Publishing, is debuting its full cast production of all 7 Harry Potter books, starting with Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone on November 4th, so this person is obviously American. The remaining 6 books will be released each month afterward. More than 200 actors contribute to the project, and their character voiceovers are supplemented by original scoring and immersive sound effects that work together to bring the Wizarding World to life in a new way. Which I actually really like. I really like the immersive sound effects and the scoring. I think that's really, really cool. Alright, blah, 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 blah. The audiobook opens with a lively score that sets the scene for the enthralling world of Harry. The world Harry's about to enter before we're introduced to narrator Kush Jumbo, who's known for her lead roles in TV shows The Good Wife and The Good Fight. Her smooth and engaging voice is sure to pull you in, whether this is your first foray into the Wizarding World or simply your latest escapade. For returning witches and muggles, the first chapter reintroduces us to old friends with new voices. We met with a haughty Dursley family, along with other characters such as a stern Professor McGonagall, eccentric Albus Dumbledore, and endeared Rubeus Hagrid, who sounds strikingly like the movie character played by Robbie Coltrane. Oh, that's kind of cool. As Harry voiced his first lines, I held my breath in anticipation. How would this new voice align with the protagonist that had already lived in my head for years, courtesy of Daniel Radcliffe's movie portrayal? Thankfully, Audible's new imagining preserves Harry's curious and strong-willed demeanor, whether through the fearless retorts, his slings at his uncle, or the longing in his voice when mentioning the parents he never knew. Similarly, the depictions of Harry's best friend Ron and Hermione also find in line with the bold and witty personas seen in the books and on screen. Listening to his audiobook made me even more eager to see Stanton play Hermione in the upcoming HBO television series, given how well she embodies the character's confident and assertive personality here. See what I'm saying? They always make her the golden girl. She's gonna be the big golden girl. That's not to say every character sounds like their movie counterpart. Perhaps the most striking difference lies in Riz Ahmed's portrayal of Professor Snape. It's almost impossible to emulate the languid, resonant tone with which Alan Rickman masterfully voiced the film's version of the character, so I'm glad the audiobook producers steered clear from trying to mimic it. Instead, Ahmed capably delivers a reimagined, quietly sneering tone which still makes the listener feel like there's more to Snape than meets the eye. Despite a host of prominent actors voicing the book's characters, their celebrity status doesn't detract from the storyline. If I hadn't already known that Matthew Macfadyen was voicing Lord Voldemort, I would never have guessed it was him. The beauty of merely hearing the actors as opposed to also seeing them has the added advantage of making their portrayals more believable. Otherwise, I may have been too distracted pondering how the man who played dreamy Mr. Darcy in Pride and Prejudice has now become the most evil wizard in the world. Fair. Dolby Atmos is spatial audio technology that can seemingly place sounds in specific places all around you, helps pinpoint characters within scenes so you know whether they're looming in the background or taking center stage. For instance, when Harry picks out his wand to Ollivanders, the shopkeeper's hushed voice seems to come from a dusty corner of the shop, and the fading in and out of Peeves' poltergeist voice as he swooshes past Hogwarts students conveys his mischievous nature. That sounds cool. I'm cool with that. Atmos also adds a sense of realism to sound effects, both mundane and magical. There were times I had to pause to check whether a beeping truck was backing up on Privet Drive or outside my window, or if the birds really were tweeting through my headphones. Like I said, I'm very excited for the ASMR bit of this. It's the infusion of those real-world and not-so-real sounds that ties this production together, drawing readers into scenes with evocative detail. The murmur of passengers and announcements at King's Cross Station helps me visualize Harry navigating the bustle for the first time, and the whispers and cheers reverberating through the Great Hall during the sorting ceremony make me feel as if I'm sitting right there on the benches too. I've listened to and cherished previous audiobook versions of Harry Potter, Jim Dale for Life, but Audible's full cast production is an entirely new experience that deftly merges literature and cinema. I can envision each scene as the characters, music, and sound effects come together to make a magical world feel tangible and lifelike in my mind. Perhaps it sounds like a stretch for an audiobook to make a fantasy world seem real, but as Dumbledore says later in the series, of course it's happening inside your head, Harry, but why on earth should that mean that is not real? And that's the end of that. So a bit of a simpy article. I would have liked some criticism in here, if any. I'm just saying, I want some genuine criticism here. I don't want some simpiness, but let's try another one. So this comes from the paper. The new all-star Harry Potter audiobook is an unimaginative mess. Audible's version has lost the tension and heart. Stephen Fry still reigns supreme. Damn. Alright, let's see what they have to say. So, full disclosure, I'm a Stephen Fry fangirl, so there's that. Alright. The swish of a cape, the growl of a flying motorbike, the rattles of a Gringotts cart, the ribbit of a chocolate frog, Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone is so rich in unmistakable sounds that Audible's new all-star full-cast audiobooks ought to immerse us in the wizarding world as intimately as ever before. Unfortunately, despite their pedigree, immaculate detail, and what I assume must have been a hefty budget, they sound like a bad historical reenactment, lose the thrill of the story, and confirm for the umpteenth time that Harry Potter is the world's most milked cash cow. Damn. Let me get this out of the way. Yes, I was raised on Stephen Fry cassettes, Sam. I say raised, I'm 34 now and have spent more nights in the last 25 years falling asleep to Fry yelping lines like "Troll in the dungeon, thought you ought to know," than I care to calculate to both the dismay and delight of other bedfellows. I expect I have heard the words Chapter 1, The Boy Who Lived, more than 100 times, and can impersonate long passages of his rendition from memory. So yes, I am attached and biased, but despite many misgivings about how regularly these stories I so cherished are flogged for all they are worth, I have succumbed to every reimagining in the franchises. Films, computer games, stage adaptation, theme park, and so I was willing to listen with an open mind. Why shouldn't Audible embrace the opportunity, 26 years since Fry's recordings, to enchant new generations with another take? This new version stars Kush Gumbel, blah 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 blah. I could go on. The cast is more than 200 strong. How could it fail? Well, because while a resplendent cast and plentiful sound effects might be required for, say, a radio play, it turns a novel into a bit of a mess. It is not narrator Jumbo's fault. She is a superb actor with inviolable, lovely diction and works valiantly with the material. But the performance she is permitted to do in this format is limited, where Fry could transform with his accent and intonation and the intake of breath into a dozen distinct and believable characters and creatures in the space of a few sentences and manipulate the emotions of his captive listener however he wished. Jumbo serves as a guide to keep an impressive but unwieldy cast moving forward. She doesn't have much artistic license, and even where she might inject a bit of knowing or dread, it's all rather straight because she's there to orchestrate everyone else. And why was the text not abridged to remove the he said and she said? She must ludicrously say all the time, ruin the dialogue. Okay. Interesting. Conversations became staccato, description cursory, and the drama, well, it's just a bit inconsistent. Some characters are underwhelming, some hammy and over the top. There's so much going on that it's impossible to be mesmerized, and rather than lose yourself in the action, you instead feel more outside of it than ever. You don't picture the action, you picture the narrator talking on a stage and the actors demonstrating in the shadows behind her. It turns into an exercise in spectating and appreciating, whereas Fry, so fun and human, you hung on his every word, and so explosive you forgot each glorious and grotesque character was actually just one man, mastered the art of oral storytelling itself. It is not helped by those unnecessary sound effects. A howl of wind will inform us it is windy, and then Jumbo will. And Petunia will whimper in a corner before we are told exactly that. The Hogwarts Express will screech onto platform 9 3/4, which of course we know, because we have just been told. So it's basically because it's unabridged is why she's not liking this. And it feels repetitive and interrupting. Fair points. The music, too, informs us too early how to feel. A sinister melody confirms Draco Malfoy is a baddie before he even speaks. A pleasant folky interlude announces that the newly introduced Weasleys are probably quite nice. When you show and tell all at once, nothing is left to the imagination. Oh, I like that. She's got a point, you know. Unfortunately, it also robs us of much of Harry Potter's humor. Rowling's novels are widely observed, understand the children's intelligence and their weird little ways, and are unafraid to send up the adults quite marvelously. Yet to allow the actor's speech to shine, the narration becomes more of a sincere explanation, butchering the comedy in lines about Uncle Vernon hammering a nail with a fruitcake or spreading marmalade on his newspaper, or Dudley having the worst day of his life because he was hungry. He'd missed 5 television programs he wanted to see, and he'd never gone so long without blowing up an alien on his computer. Fair. Fry had the freedom to pause for comic effect or deploy his cartoonish impressions and was often hysterically funny. So the problem is because we have a full cast ensemble, therefore Kush is limited, like you guys were saying in my previous video in the comments. She's limited to what she can do, and it has to be super monotone because she's there to set the stage. This to me sounds like you're either gonna like it or you're not gonna like it. I don't really think I'm gonna like it. If this is like, I'm kind of going with the Stephen Fry opinions here. Far worse, though, is that the stories are robbed of their tension. The reason these books are so special is because of how thrillingly they built that for even the very young reader. Harry Potter is just a child like that any other, plucked from anonymity and told he is not only the most important and famous boy in the world, but also that magic exists. His entire life is a lie, and then he's off to boarding school and needs robes and a magic wand. The gravity of this revelation and the ghastly enemies that pursue and threaten him, well, there could not be anything more exciting. There is mystery, terror, emotion, and wonder at the imagination, and about what on earth is coming. Here, the story is recounted as if we already know it, even down to the accents and intonations, some of which feel ripped off from Fry or the film. And that is fatal for any literary adaptation. I was lucky enough to read this book as a child, believing, because of its cover illustration, that it was about trains, and discovered to my delight and astonishment otherwise. Decades and billions of dollars later, blind introduction to the wizarding world is rare, and I concede that most children probably know at the outset it is a story about magic. But we should never accept that, never assume that, never deprive them of the chance to imagine why this sad, lonely child is receiving strange, wax-sealed letters. Children don't care about big stars or sound effects. They want to be entertained. Like all classic books, Harry Potter is destined to be retold again and again. But in each new version, we should treat the reader or audience as if they have no clue of the adventure of which they are about to embark, and find new ways to interpret the action and characters and inspire and absorb them, and bring fresh meaning to existing fans too. If it is treated like old news and reduced to mere intellectual property, lazily phoned in again and again, there is no defense that Harry Potter has not plummeted from marvel to money spinner, with the purity of the stories diluted and the magic lost completely. Damn, this article slaps. Very eloquently said, as I just say slaps. But no, this person is right. I believe it's a woman, right, who wrote this? I keep saying she, because I'm pretty sure I saw a she. Yeah, Sarah Carson. I agree with what she has to say. Now, listen, I'm still saying you guys should go and pick it up should you want to, and give it a fair chance with an open mind and see how this is. But she is correct in that if you keep doing this, it's going to be diluted. It's just a moneymaker at this point. And I got to be honest, with all the HBO, with the way merch has been handled, you're slowly getting there. You're slowly getting to like dilute this in a moneymaker or cash cow, you name it. It's going to lose its magic. It really is. Now, there is one more from Collider. Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone newest adaptation is the most honest version yet. Now, this is from Tanya Hussein? All right, let's be honest. Talking about Harry Potter in 2025 is more just a little complicated. Why? The series that once united generations under a shared sense of magic, belonging, and the yesteryear charm of midnight book releases now carries a heavy shadow of its creators' harmful beliefs. Here we go. All right. I feel like your opinion's already automatically debunked over. Anyway, blah, blah, blah. The statements didn't just cause debate, but here's the thing. Blah, 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 blah. All right, here we go. She's just talking about whatever the hell she wants about trans rights. Here we go. Okay. Audible's ambition production, starting with Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, shouldn't be looked at as a celebration of Rowling, huh? Instead, it should be seen and felt as a collective reclamation. In so many ways, the story now belongs to the artists performing them and the listeners who still find comfort in the magic, all while holding her accountable. Oh, God. It never ignores the harm she's caused or erases what she has said. But it does remind us that the moment a story enters the world, it belongs to everyone willing to imagine it better. Someone want to tell Tanya, whatever this bitch's name is, that the owner is J.K. Rowling. That is the owner of Harry Potter. This person gets all the money. Like, she owns it. You're literally writing an article. She's making money. I don't think you understand how that works. Anyway, let's see what this dum-dum has to say. Before the lightning bolt became a logo, movie merchandise with Radcliffe's face inundated store shelves, and Hogwarts turned to amusement parks around the world. It all began with a simple boy living under the cupboard under the stairs. All right, is there actually something about like the book here? Okay. Where the films visualize the Wizarding World, Audible's Sorcerer's Stone adaptation rebuilds it through sound. Something interesting about this is how it is more than an audiobook. It's a complete reimagining of how the entire story is experienced and felt. Never once does the production tell you what is happening page by page, more than it surrounds you with all those pieces frame by frame. I kind of think it is. If she's saying he said, she said, and then you hear someone like in the corner and then Kush is reiterating, I feel like that is a page by page. Anyway, whatever. It's because of this that the level of detail in every chapter is staggering. Ollivander's one-shop sequence might be one of the sharpest early examples of what these productions can be. In Chapter 5, you can clearly hear the snap of the measuring tape as it darts around the room, the soft scrape of wand boxes sliding open, and the faint hum as the magic chooses its owner. Now, I like that. That sounds awesome. But then there's a moment like the sequence of Platform 9 3/4 that is pure joy created for our senses. The whistle of the train cuts through the chatter of families saying goodbye while luggage wheels click against the cobblestones. And somewhere in the mix, you also hear a cat meow and a distant laugh. It's like being dropped into a sound painting. Not a single part of it ever feels artificial, especially the echoes of footsteps that shift depending on the space. It's a thoughtful production that doesn't just recreate Hogwarts, but gives it acoustics and a texture that feels lived in. That's cool. I'm totally fine with this. Like I keep saying, the ASMR bit of it, the sound effects, I'm down. But if you're still not convinced by Chapter 11, the Quidditch match is alone one of the most impressive technical feats in the Audible production. With every twist and turn of its action sequences, the high-quality sound design from Dolby Atmos lets you feel the cold rush of air and the pulse of the crowd, with a steady rhythm and score that plays to an almost folk-like guitar undercurrent for tension too. It's a whimsical soundscape capturing the rush of flight. You don't just hear the game, but you feel its movement in your chest. Though the Audible production is all about sound, it's also measured best in the quieter moments. When Harry, Ron, and Hermione sneak through the corridor under the invisibility cloak, the audio tightens with their breath quickening or rope swishing. It also feels very much alive, especially as the score carries a nervous energy and shifts to a faint whisper-like chime. And in contrast, the distant sound of students talking, fireplaces crackling, and soft laughter in the great hall feel cozy amongst the small joys. But it's even some of the more jarring moments, like the shrieking book that sings and it's legit scare rooted in chaos. But it's the kind of micro details filled with spaces between action and dialogue that make the audiobook more than a nostalgia trip. The production trusts sound to tell the story, and it works. But this isn't just a rehash of a beloved book. Every noise, every bit of silence feels intentional in so many ways. It's an act of sonic imagination. And stripping away the visuals and keeping everything from the books intact, Audible somehow restores the magic that time and memory might have dulled. All right. Okay, so basically, so far, this article talks about the sound effects and everything. Let's see if I'm assuming they're going to talk now about the actual talent. While the cast is staggering, most importantly, it's an inspired one thanks to Audible's casting a diverse roster of talent. This article is so freaking soy. Nobody cares about the skin color of these people. I also want to point out that the whole spiel that they did about J.K. Rowling at the front was basically trying to cover their asses for like, please forgive me, I want to talk about Harry Potter. Please allow me to do this. She's a bad woman, but let me talk about this. Bitch, she bad. She big bad. Oh, God. Anyway. No one sounds like they're trying to recreate the films or the characters from any point of view. They're performing with a newness, letting the language and relationships breathe through its chapters. It also features a cast that has authentic chemistry, as heard in the banter, which makes the production feel all the more grounded. One of the biggest characters to get right is Dumbledore, played with a soft wit and a quiet sense of melancholy by Hugh Laurie. His voice feels both wary and amused, but still the kind that wraps you like a hug. Meanwhile, Riz Ahmed brings humanity to Snape despite some icy flashes of something aching underneath. Why does he have humanity? He's a piece of shit in the first book, He enunciates with a sharp restraint, clipping consonants, and drawing out vowels that float just a bit too long. Joining the pair is also Michelle Gomez McGonagall, who is as sharp as a wand flick but deeply affectionate. That's very good. What's perfect about her casting is how you can hear that faint smile behind her strictness, a character trait from the books and even brought to life by Maggie Smith in the films that feels like a wink. Mark Addy's Hagrid is a sincere delight, all booming warmth with good intentions and tons of heart, especially in the scenes with Harry. But it's the kids as the emotional core that give this Audible production its legs. Frankie's Harry sounds like the boy we remember, earnest, uncertain, growing braver with every line. Max Lester's Ron nails the balance of humor and heart, tinged with anxiety, while Arabella Stanton's Hermione, soon to also be in the HBO series, channels that unmistakable cadence made popular by Emma Watson, brisk, bossy, but full of heart. Their scenes crackle with authenticity and joy, but perhaps the sweetest thing is that you can actually hear their friendship forming. One of the most chilling casting choices would have to be Matthew McFadden's Voldemort because he never overdoes it. Instead, he's measured, deliberate, almost intimate in his menace, especially as we hear him at the end. It all comes together through Cush Jumbo, narrating and helping stitch the world together with exactness. With a rare ability to sound both warm and authoritative, she turns the chaos of a more than 200-person cast into something that feels like a living, breathing performance. Is Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone worth listening to? Yes, and it's not just for nostalgia's sake. If the first book is any indication of what Audible is capable of, it can be considered that all of these will feel more like restoration than a revival. It's proof that even something marred by controversy can still find new life through collaboration and care by a studio that genuinely cares for stories. The version of Sorcerer's Stone doesn't shy away from what surrounds it. It lives with it and still finds a way to move forward. Sure, Keira Knightley, who will be stepping into the shoes of Professor Umbridge, didn't answer a question about J.K. Rowling's trans controversy with much care. She later just said, let's all get along. Huh? And it brushed it off as a matter of different opinions and respect. But what's striking about this adaptation is how different it feels from that kind of detachment. This author, this person who wrote this article, has the IQ of a 4-year-old. And that's insulting to the 4-year-olds. I'm sorry, 4-year-olds out there. The production is fully aware of the worlds it's entering. A world that has no doubt changed, a fandom that has grown and matured, and a story that now lives in a more complicated light. Through its evident inclusivity of voices, this project is cinematic in every way and feels like a quiet act of course correction. It is the type of art that also listens rather than filling spaces with negativity as felt with its casting. A solid work worthy of a binge, the performances are rich, the soundscapes are breathtaking, and its heart is still pretty much intact. It's an audiobook that doesn't just retell a familiar story, but reminds us why Harry Potter mattered in the first place. Oh god, it goes on and talks about her being a TERF. Okay, blah, 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 blah. But this is a beautifully crafted audiobook, and that truth makes this adaptation a moral tangle. What? You can go ahead and love what these diverse, skillful artists built together on a soundstage and how delightfully charming this Audible is, but recognize how it continues to benefit someone who's used her platform to openly support anti-trans organizations. Even the most devoted fans and many of the original cast stand with the trans community instead of rolling, but maybe that's the real magic. Choosing to separate what shaped us from who betrayed it most. Holy moly, this person has a lot of brain damage. Anyway, so this kind of was a garbage article. Not surprising, it's from Collider, so if you expected some high IQ article, you're going to be sorely mistaken. So what I've gathered from these 3 articles, right? Very different 3 articles. You have the whole, let me talk about Harry Potter, please, but J.K. Rowling really, really bad. You had, okay, this Audible was pretty shit. And then you had one that was, oh, this was really, really good. 3 different articles, right? I like the middle one the most. That one, I want to hear criticism about it, right? I do. I'm going to say this. If you want to get the Audible book, get it. Listen to it with an open mind. I'm very much curious about it. Why I've not bought it is because I don't want to buy digital. I want it to be physically released. I would love to have it physically released. If this thing was physically released, I would buy it like that. Like that. I would have it in my hands already. But we don't. Because Amazon sucks. There's really not much to it. So, those are just some quick reviews for today, also with some new casting announcements for Audible. Let me know what you guys think down below. Let me know if you've pre-ordered the first book, and the other books for that matter. Let me know all your thoughts down below. Make sure you're subscribed, and I'll see you guys all next time. Bye!